Every leaf on the tree was someone who disappeared. They told us not to go past the fence behind the school. Not because there were wolves. Not because the cliffs dropped off into darkness. But because of the tree. It was dead, they said. Always had been. Twisted, scorched black like it had been struck by lightning and left to rot. But every fall, it bloomed, covered in leaves so vivid they looked painted. Not green, crimson, rust, bone white. And no two were ever alike. That was the first thing Eleanor said when she finally stepped past the gate. Every leaf looks like someone's face, she whispered. We laughed at her. Eleanor was always trying to make the world more haunted than it already was. But she wasn't wrong. The tree stood alone in the clearing, a spindly, brittle monster against the fog. And those leaves, they really did look like something more. Veins too precise. Shapes too human. I didn't see it until the wind blew one down. It landed beside my shoe. It had eyes. Not like little dark spots. Real eyes. Closed but wet. And before I could even scream, the wind took it again, whirling up into the canopy, where it reattached, like it had never fallen at all. I ran. So did the others. All but Eleanor. She stayed behind, staring up at the branches like she was reading names carved into tombstones. That was Friday. By Monday, Eleanor was gone. No footprints. No note. No struggle. Just her sketchbook, open on her desk at school. The last page showed a crude drawing of the tree, and in it one new leaf centered in dark, with long hair and blank, staring eyes. Her name was scrawled under it. Eleanor. The police searched the woods. Nothing. The school said grief was making us imagine things. But the day after the search ended, I climbed the fence again. Alone. I stood beneath the branches and stared up into the red. And there, among the leaves, was one I hadn't seen before. Still. Heavy. Pale. And on it a freckle just below the left eye. Exactly like Eleanor had. The tree had taken her. And I think it knew I had noticed. Because one leaf fluttered down toward me. And it had my smile. The leaf with my smile never touched the ground. It hovered, spinning like it was thinking. Then drifted gently upward, folding itself into the canopy like a secret changed its mind. I didn't tell anyone. Not because I wasn't scared. But because some fear isn't made for sharing. It's like a splinter buried deep. You stop picking at it because you know what you'll find underneath. Still, something had changed. The tree had looked at me, chosen me, then turned away. The next morning, the school announced another disappearance. Jonas this time. Quiet kid. Sat behind me in history. Chewed his pencil down to splinters. Always looked tired, like he hadn't slept since birth. They said he never came home after detention. But I remembered something. Something small. The day Eleanor vanished, Jonas had been near the fence. Just a flash of him in the distance, near the back path. I hadn't thought much of it then. But now, after school, I went back. The clearing looked the same, still as a painting. But when I stepped closer, I saw something different. At the base of the trunk, deep in the bark, were names. Hundreds of them. Some fresh. Some so worn they were little more than scratches. I found Eleanor's. Then Jonas's below hers. His last name was spelled wrong, but it was his. And as I reached out to touch it, my finger bled. Just one drop. But the bark absorbed it like a sponge. And when I looked up, the leaves shifted. Not from the wind. From attention. They weren't hanging. They were watching. A whisper threaded the silence, like wind through teeth. Names feed roots. Faces feed leaves. I stepped back, heartbeat thundering. And then, another leaf began to fall. This one had Jonas's eyes. Still tired. Still afraid. It twirled down and landed at my feet. I ran. That night, I dreamed of the tree. But it wasn't alone. There were others, smaller, growing in a ring around it. Saplings with mouths. Leaves made of whispering faces. And in the center, beneath the soil, something old moved. Something waiting to wake. I woke up screaming. And outside my window, a single red leaf clung to the glass. Smiling. I tried not to look at the window again. That single red leaf sat there all night, flat against the glass like it was listening. Or waiting. In the morning it was gone. But a faint stain remained. A smudge, like a fingerprint made in blood. I didn't sleep after that. Not properly. I began hearing things, voices stitched into the wind. Soft, overlapping whispers carried through the rustle of trees. Some called my name. Others spoke in languages I didn't recognize. One sounded like Eleanor. "You're almost ready," it said. By the end of the week, 2 more kids had vanished. Sarai and Benny. Neither were close to me, but I remembered their faces well enough. And when I returned to the clearing after sunset, those same faces were hanging in the branches. Their expressions didn't scream. They mourned. The tree was fuller now. Heavier. As if it had been feeding. And beneath it, the bark had split. A long wound had opened down the center of the trunk, oozing something black and slow, like sap that had died long ago but refused to dry. That's when I saw the newest name carved into the bark. Mine. Fresh. Still dripping red. I turned, heart pounding. But the forest was silent. Even the air held its breath. Until I heard footsteps. Not behind me. Above. I looked up, and saw a figure moving in the branches. Not a bird. Not an animal. A person. Thin limbs. Pale skin. Long hair that dragged across the bark like moss. It was Eleanor. But her eyes were empty. Her hands threaded with vines. And her mouth opened in a smile that stretched too far. She pointed one crooked finger at the trunk. At my name. Then she whispered. "Say it out loud. That's how it begins." I backed away, stumbling through dead leaves and rotting roots. One caught my ankle. Tight. The tree wasn't just watching anymore. It was reaching. I made it home bleeding and breathless. But when I opened my bedroom door, the window was already open. And on the floor, a pile of leaves had arranged themselves in the shape of a body. Mine. I swept the leaves into a trash bag. Not gently, furiously. Desperately trying to break the shape they'd made. The curve of my jaw. The outline of my hands. The eyes. They'd even made the eyes. But the leaves were dry. Brittle. They crumbled when I touched them. All except one. One stayed whole. Flat. It had no face. That was worse than the others. I didn't go to school the next day. Couldn't. I barely made it through the night without screaming. The tree was inside my head now, rooting into memory, growing through my dreams. When I blinked, I saw it. Not the clearing. Not the fence. Just that awful trunk, split open like a mouth mid-sentence. And every time, I saw more saplings around it. They weren't trees. They were children. Curled into roots. Spines bent. Fingers stretched into vines. Their faces bloomed as leaves. And they were whispering in unison. "Say your name." I knew what it wanted. I knew how this worked now. If you said your name beneath the tree, it took it. Took you. Said it, carved it, or even thought it too clearly. I tried to remember if I'd done it already. Had I? Was it too late? I went back. I had to. The wind had changed. It didn't blow anymore, it pulled. Toward the tree. Toward its breath. The clearing had grown. It was wider than before. The grass near the roots had turned gray. And in the center, the trunk had split even farther, wide enough now for a person to step inside. I saw movement in the gap. Then a voice behind me. "It remembers you." I turned and saw Eleanor. But she wasn't just Eleanor anymore. Her body was stitched in bark. Her hair was woven with thread-like roots. Her eyes reflected the leaves, flickering red and white. "It's not just the tree," she said. "It's the forest. It remembers every name that's ever been spoken here. It's made of them." My voice cracked. "Why me?" Eleanor smiled. "Or maybe the thing wearing her skin did. Because you hesitated." And from behind her, the tree opened. Inside was darkness. Breathing. Waiting. I don't know why I stepped forward. Maybe because I was tired of running. Or maybe because part of me knew deep down I'd already been claimed. The tree didn't just open. It invited. And the forest around it held its breath, as if time had paused for my decision. The trunk's interior wasn't made of wood. It was flesh. Pulsing. Lined with rows of names that blinked like eyes. Each one glowing softly, some fading, some fresh. Mine was near the top. Still red. Still alive. I moved inside. The sound changed instantly. No wind. No birds. Just whispers, like breath being drawn in and never exhaled. Eleanor was behind me, or beside me. It was hard to tell now. She didn't speak anymore. Her smile stretched farther than it should, like it had been carved in by hand. The heart of the tree pulsed in front of me. A mass of tangled roots, veins, and something that looked far too much like a ribcage. Suspended in the center, wrapped in roots and leaves, was a child. Small. Still. Eyes closed. And with every beat, more names burned into the bark around it. This is the root of memory, a voice whispered. This is how the forest keeps what the world forgets. Then it hit me. The tree wasn't killing anyone. It was remembering them. Every leaf wasn't a corpse. It was a story, a soul, a forgotten child, a hidden truth. That's why Eleanor had stayed. She wanted to be remembered. And that's what it wanted from me. To give in. To let go. To leave behind a name no one would ever forget. But I wasn't ready. Not yet. I turned and ran, tearing through roots and leaves, through whispered screams and reaching branches. The forest screamed in voices I knew. I reached the fence. I didn't look back. That was 3 weeks ago. No one else has disappeared since. But I don't sleep. Because every night, leaves gather at my window, forming shapes, faces, names. And last night I saw mine again. But this time the leaf wasn't alone. It was smiling and whispering. When the last name fades, we grow again.